Shalom, shalom, Israel. You know, man, I want to make a video that is encouraging men to be doers of the word. And you may be in the part of your journey of coming out, you know, from secular religion, these different denominations and things. And you may be on the journey of where you're actually trying to be a doer of the word, to do more of what the word says, to be more obedient, but you don't understand the concept of biblical feast days. Today, I've got you covered. Let's talk about it.
The matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room, you can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave like everyone else. You were born into bondage. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
All praise to the Most High Yah Shalom. Thank you for tuning in to another Righteous Spirit-filled episode. Today I'm back at it in them trenches, handling that kingdom business, making biblical masculinity great again. You know, man, the biblical feast, you know, was a time for the called out assembly to rest, to be in remembrance of the things that the Most High Yah wanted us focused on during these specific feasts, you know, giving us of the Torah, you know, atonement for our sins, a lot of different things, okay? And man, I remember early on, you know, struggling to get information because I did not know where to look. You know, I really didn't know what to research, how to research. And I'm gonna break this down for you to give you a baseline understanding of it, okay? And one thing I want you to keep in mind, I'm gonna tell you the version that just any random Bible reader who really doesn't understand thou, this, and thou art, I understand that, I get that, okay? So to give you this breakdown, I'm gonna be using the amplified version. The Bible that I read mainly is the Sefer and the KJV, but when it comes to explaining things to people that I know really reading level isn't up to that biblical reading level as far as the language and the vernacular, I use the amplified, okay? So Leviticus chapter 23 is the basics. Now, this is gonna be your foundation of the biblical feast days, Leviticus 23. And I'll show you how this thing starts off. Leviticus 23 starts off like much of Exodus. And in there, the Most High is speaking to the children of Israel, you know, giving them instructions, giving them commandments, giving them laws, okay? So Leviticus 23, chapter 23, starting at verse 1. Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, The appointed times, the established feast of Yahweh, which you shall proclaim as holy convocations. My appointed times are these. Okay, the Sabbath. For 6 days, work may be done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of complete rest. This is right in alignment with Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 11. Okay, skipping down to verse 4, the Passover and unleavened bread. This is the actual holiday. What the world has given you, Easter, a Sunday service, that's inaccurate. These are the appointed times of Yahweh. Holy convocations you shall proclaim at their appointed times. The Passover is on the 14th day of the month at twilight. The feast of unleavened bread to the master is on the 15th day of the same month. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Lets you know it's a 7-day festival. It's a 7-day biblical feast. That's why I said not Easter. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation, calling together, and you shall do no laborious work on that day. Reminder, man, when you're reading this in the book and it tells you no work to be done, you know, put in your time off from work. Like, if I'm gonna give you an example, if a holiday falls on Tuesday or Wednesday, man, The day prior, since the biblical day starts at sunset, the day prior is not what you take off. It's the following day. So if the actual holiday is on the 3rd, it actually begins on the Gregorian calendar, which the Western culture uses. It actually begins on the 2nd at sunset, since the biblical day starts at sunset. Okay. Going down to verse 9. Then the master spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you enter the land which I am giving you and reap its harvest, you shall bring the sheaf of first fruits of your harvest to the priest. He shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh so that you may be accepted. The priest shall wave it on the day after the Sabbath. We know Hamashiach is our high priest. As men know, man, you are the priest of your home. Let's keep going. I'm just guiding you through this, okay? Verse 15, you shall count from the day after the Sabbath, and it's giving you instructions the day after the Sabbath. And this is the reason why it starts off with telling you about the Sabbath, okay? You shall count from the day after the Sabbath, from the day when you brought in the sheaf, the tithe bundle of grain of the wave offering. There shall be complete 7 Sabbaths, 7 full weeks. You shall count 50 days, the day after the Sabbath, the 7th Sabbath. Then you shall present a new grain offering to Yahweh. Okay, so going over that, it's giving you the Feast of Weeks. The next one is the Feast of Trumpets, which we're currently in. Verse 23, again, Yahweh spoke to Moses saying, the children of Israel on the 1st day of the 7th month, okay, and the Amplifies, it tells you almost October, you shall observe a day of solemn sabbatical rest, a memorial day announced by the blowing of the trumpets, shofars, okay, a holy convocation. You shall not do any laborious work on that day, but you shall present an offering by fire to the Most High. Man, you light up your grill, you know, and make your offering. He can smell the aroma of that. Verse 26, the Day of Atonement. The Master spoke unto Moses, saying, also the 10th day of the 7th month is the Day of Atonement. It shall be a holy convocation for you, and you shall humble yourselves, okay, and present an offering by fire to Yahweh. You shall not do any work. So it's giving you instructions for these biblical feast days. Going to verse 33. Again, Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, the children of Israel on the 15th day of the 7th month, for 7 days is the Feast of Booths, tabernacles to Yahweh. The first day is a holy convocation, calling together, you shall not do any laborious work on that day. When it comes to the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Booths, the first and the last day, no laborious work shall be done. And it gives you instructions for this, okay? Man, this is a, you know, something that a lot of men struggle with, because they're like, man, I don't know where the heck I'm supposed to get this information from. Then from upon that, what you do is then you can go to Google, you can go to apps like websites like Blue Letter Bible, you can go to apps like Open Bible, and you can type this stuff in and do a search of Bible verses telling you all throughout the book, because people want you to believe that this is Old Testament stuff. But you even see in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, you see Hamashiach keeping the actual feast. When you read in the New Testament, you don't read about Hamashiach keeping, the Messiah keeping Easter. You read about him keeping Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, as well as the disciples. So don't let anybody tell you that this is Old Testament stuff, okay? One thing you want to do is you're going to have to, I am no calendar wizard. I'm going to tell you that. You have some people that are a lot more sharper on the calendar, but I am no calendar wizard. So you got to understand, the calendar that we operate off of is the Gregorian calendar. That's not the biblical calendar, you know, and it has midnight. The days start at midnight on the Gregorian calendar, but on the biblical calendar, the days start at sunset. That's why I broke that down for you before. One basic thing you can do is you can Google, when is the feast of blank, blank, blank? When is the feast of Booths, you know, in 2025? And it'll give you some dates. And I ask you to reference that. Look up 3 different sources of telling you when that calculation is, and you seek out the Most High Yah of when you're supposed to be doing it. And what you will notice is sometimes they are a couple days off based upon people that have done their calendars. But if your heart is in the right place, you're not going to use that as an excuse not to keep it. You're going to do it, you know? And man, once you do that, you know, make sure you put in your request from work, you know, to take time off if you have to request time off from an employer. And you can put a biblical reference in there for Leviticus 23, because here's the thing. Secular Christians are not doers of the word. But when you put that Bible verse in there and say, for instance, your supervisor calls himself a Christian, man, you always are putting the reference in your request for time off from work. So if they want to go verify, they can verify. The word says be a doer of the word. A lot of people have deceived themselves, and I wanted to give men a basic starting point from how you can start keeping these feast days, okay? And it all starts, you know, my past Sabbath day teaching is not keeping the Sabbath a sin. Got to get men that are truly focused on serving the Most High Yah. This is a video to get you further in your walk. It's not the end all be all. It's just a basics. If you are coming out from secular religion and you know this stuff, some of the stuff they've been teaching you is not right, you don't see the stuff you're doing in the Bible, this is going to help you transition over to truth. Because what you've been caught up in is religious doctrine, religious customs, and the Pharisees, they had all kind of customs for washing hands and laws, but that wasn't biblical. And Mashiach exposed that. He says, man, you reject the commandments of the Most High to keep your own traditions. So we got to make sure we are in alignment with what the Most High Yah says. And I challenge you to do the research on these feasts, to look up, you know, the Messiah, who they call JC, Yeshua HaMashiach, you know, keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Passover, you know, the different biblical feasts. And you'll see this all throughout the New Testament, but mainstream Christianity, religion, won't show you this because they got you too busy on keeping Easter, bringing that Easter bunny out. They probably want you wearing that Easter bunny consuit because you're gullible. You know, they got you focused on keeping Christmas. They got you focused on all of the worldly observances, holidays that they have adopted, and they adopt it to try to incorporate pagans, but pagans end up, you know, pretty much running the show. That's what happened. But none of those worldly holidays are biblical. You won't find it. Close to the Yah Ministries, kicking that thing gun barrel straight.